I think that's what I want this to do is like try to encourage people to just damn do it.
100%.
That's what I
Like,
want to land. I want this to land at being encouraging.
that's what I'm after too. Hey, this is me, him, and the internet. My name's Jason Moore.
I'm Mike Holstein.
Uh, so we were talking. I'm just gonna roll, man. Let's just do it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I love
we
it.
we were talking about just kind of having a discussion
Introducing.
today about this segment, like conversational musicianship, which was kind of your title that
Yeah,
really kind of worked with what we're always finding ourselves talking about, like for like really long threads, either on the internet or just in person. So,
right.
um, so here we are. Would you like to say anything about what that means, like why that idea has been kicking around for you?
Yeah, I think it comes up often and maybe doesn't materialize in any specific way, but I think that's what I'm looking for is trying to flesh out this. Uh, what is that? What is conversational musicianship? And to me, it's like a real basic like music as a language
Mm-hmm.
idea where I mean, of course, you're talking about scales and technique and all that all the time. You got that going on, but you also got some things about like how do you start a song?
Mm-hmm.
How do you interact with someone else while they're playing music, and whatever it takes to be able to look at that and see it and talk about it.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I always thought about like if I had two or three students playing together, then a lot of this stuff would come up, and I would be like, oh,
Right.
this, you know, it would make an easier way for this stuff to flesh itself out.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this really like music as a language.
Yeah, a lot of the times when we're getting into it, the as far as like the mission that we would have to communicate what we're trying to talk
Uh,
about to other people rather than just between the two of us or with other people
right.
we play with, the idea comes to me like about I don't know, bringing music home is what I feel like when I think
Huh.
about it personally, like making removing the mystique or something, like
Yeah.
literally making it a part of human experience again. Now I think there's a lot
You
of
know,
people
I
out there
hate to,
do.
I don't want to cut you off here, but
No, please do.
that mystique is important because I think it turns into a thing where like music is art, man.
Yeah,
It's not really a science, but looking at it scientifically surely helps. It doesn't hurt.
right.
But getting back, I think that's kind of what you're talking about when you say bring out. It's like that's how I feel. It's like get it back to like music, art, a feeling, emotional. Anyway, I didn't mean to. I just thought that sounded so much like what I was thinking.
Yeah, I guess what I mean by bringing it back home is like just putting it back in the human experience and
Yeah, yeah,
out of the tower that we impose on it in a way.
right.
Uh, um, and I think there's people doing a good job of that. I think there's like
Uh-huh.
folk music communities that do that, and but at the same time, I think what we're talking about is doing that within the realm of improvisation too.
Yeah,
Like
which has jazz attached to it,
right,
which comes with like all kinds of paperwork and documentation and
uh-huh.
who's doing what right and wrong, and like just that idea of like jazz being so open and like bringing it back home. Like it shouldn't be so rule oriented, right? I don't
Right,
know.
right. So I was kind of reviewing some of the ideas that you sent my way today, and I just kind of like highlighted some things and took a couple of notes, and I guess along that line, like that sort of like tower that we impose on it, or the mystique that we put around, particularly improvisation, just like talking to other people that 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 are decent, even really good musicians that
Uh,
say, like I can't improvise, or
Right.
or
Right.
whatever, and they get so bound up in the ability to judge it as right or wrong, right?
Judgment. Yeah.
Into the
I was
theory.
just imagining like if your kid came in and was like, man, I just can't improvise. They just,
Right.
that like we were born knowing how to do it. Like
Right.
it's innate.
Right. We actually
Anyway.
don't know anything else. Like
Yeah, you're just
I
born
think
like putting out like fun, creative, new ideas, and then somebody tells you shouldn't, and you start listening to them, I guess. And
right.
you
Well,
get some rules and judgment thrown in there, and
it makes it so
that's
much
where you
more
are.
comfortable for us, right, to be able to say that's
I
right
think
and
it
that's
can.
wrong, and I think
I think it can.
until it's not,
Uh-huh.
until that's not doing the job anymore, and that's a big
You
problem.
hit that wall, like you set that as a goal, and now you've done that, and you're doing right. And then what? And then there's nowhere to go from there. But if you
Right.
don't have that in place, then you can explore really anything creatively.
Right. So, so one of the things that you said in here is like, I'm thinking about people that say things like that, and I'm thinking about how bound up they get in the theory,
Uh-huh.
in the science part of it that you're mentioning, and you said
Right.
like music theory is not a how-to, and
Yeah, I got that.
and you were asking like, is it constructive to have a lot of definitions include what something is not? And I wanted to hear you talk
Yeah.
about that. So I wanted to hear you
Well,
riff on that.
like what music? Like if I ask you, like, what's music, and then you start saying, well, let me tell you what music's not. It's not. You know what I mean? Like, I think that might be a good way to flesh an idea out. I don't know, but I'd hate to have just like all of my ideas being
that could
what
be a fun
things
segment.
aren't.
That could be a fun segment, actually. What things are not. That's we got to keep that
Yeah.
in the
Because I don't know what. I think an important thing is like, I don't think you ever really become a expert at this. I don't think that's the intention. I think
right.
you're always supposed to be learning and finding those areas that you don't know about and exploring that, and like not in the idea of like mastering it or being an expert, but just to like know about it and have it. So I guess that's where that comes from for me. It's like, I don't know what music and improvisation necessarily is,
Sure.
but I know what I don't want to be doing. I know how to like rule out some things that aren't working for me.
Yeah, and so like my comment that I wanted to make on that was that like what I think or what I like to think about music theory being is just an attempt to describe sound. So in that way, it's hindsight only. You know what I mean? It's an
That's
attempt,
interesting.
and I always like when I talk to my students about it, I always like to quote Miles Davis, which he was not talking about this at all, but like I co-opted what he said. Like the vibe from it. It's like it's on working or steaming or relaxing, one of those, where he says to the engineer, "I'll play it first, and then I'll tell you what it is."
Right. Yeah.
And
I remember you talking about that.
Man, I think about that constantly because there is a part of my brain that wants to, or part of my like process oriented experience that wants to get a handle on it first before I act, right? And in the end, it always crushes or like tamps down the creative drive, or stifles it. And I've really had to work at learning to let like the creative part lead the way, and be curious and say like, hey, what is that over there? And then let this other part pipe in after the fact and say, well, I think I know what that is, and this is what I think that is. And then they can talk about it, and it become. I mean, I sound like a crazy person, but like then these parts of me can sort of dialogue about it in a way
Uh,
that like in a way that then I think for me and my experience, which is what I'm about, like gives the thing meaning. So like when you started talking about conversational musicianship, I got really excited because I'm often trying to talk about the conversation I'm having internally.
well, yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like how, because I've always struggled with people like, um, uh, let me say this differently. I haven't struggled with others doing this. I've struggled with wondering if I had my stuff together because other people are able to like write a tune, like no lyrics or anything, like write a tune and give it this title that because they really had this meaning for this tune that they wanted to convey or whatever. And it's just never been that way for me, right? Like it's never been
Yeah,
like I'm
interesting.
going to write a song about this or
Right.
whatever and then this music comes. It's just like, well, I just want to hear this
It's the other way
music.
around.
Right.
Yeah,
And then maybe it reveals to me what I'm maybe if I'm lucky
that's interesting. I
it
think it's
gets
always
revealed.
the other way around for me.
What way around?
Well, like I don't sit down and think like, let me write a song about uh, John Scofield,
Right.
like that tune "Sco." I
Uh,
picked up that it was probably right when the seven string was made. I can't remember, but I picked it up and I had that like a C alt, and then I had this bass line that went with it, and then there was a melody, and I was like, shit, that sounds like Scofield. And
yeah.
then there it was, and I was like, okay. And then I had a bridge, and then I knew, you know, like the whole
Yeah.
thing came to me,
Yeah.
and then I knew I was going to call it SCO, you know,
Yeah.
like I wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, let me do a Schofield tribute, because if I did that, I don't know what that would be like. Probably
Sure.
pretty bad.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I
Exactly.
think I ended up with a nice groovy thing that like has a lot of some. I don't know what it has. It's
Right.
just, you know, I feel like I found it more than anything else. Like it
Right. I
came with
like.
that guitar, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, here it is.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. You say that actually pretty often after you make a build. Like that came with the guitar.
Oh yeah.
Like it came with that one. Um. Uh. Shoot. There was something you said a minute ago about like not ever. Like not
Oh,
ever
not ever
like not ever
becoming like an
mastering.
expert.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
becoming an expert. And I had highlighted something that you said in our notes about this stuff that you said like you would expect to have to revisit whatever it is
Yeah.
constantly. Technique is
I
what
would
we were
expect to
talking about.
revisit technique. Yeah.
I really enjoyed that because you were you were sort of saying that I think that you this is what you were getting at was that like a lot of the conversation around theory or whatever gets treated a little bit like you're progressing in a video game, like you're
Oh yeah,
leveling
you
up,
level
like
up. Hmm.
and 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 then that's just
You
where
get
you
your
are,
alternate picking badge and you stow it on your, and
right?
you're, you know, and it's like, it's just not like that, man. You
It's
can hold
not,
the pick a different way today just to check it out. It's not going to, you know,
or
it's not going to
or
hurt anything.
or just because you're in a bad mood,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
I'm not going to use a pick today. I'm going to put it, you know, you can do all kinds of different stuff if you want.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be, I don't know. I think about revisiting technique also because, well, it's not, I'm sure there's stuff like this with every instrument, but guitar's got a lot of different styles that almost, I don't want to say require a different guitar, but you know, like a classical nylon string guitar kind of has a different technique than you would play with on like a telly or something. And I feel like you can always revisit those techniques and also kind of
Oh,
like find other ways to pull one technique to the other instrument or back and forth. And it's
sure.
just, I just think that never really ends. Like, how do you, it's things that are like really elegantly simple, but endlessly complicated, like plucking a string, you know, like you just pluck the thing, but do you mute it right immediately afterwards, or where do you how
Uh,
do you use a pick or not? It's like it never ends the processing of the technique and thinking about what kind of sound you want, which I
yeah.
think is something you're really good at with your instruments. Is like, I mean, I don't know, having a sound in mind and really getting that out instead of working on a technique and then spilling that out. I
Sure.
think that
Yeah.
you have a sound in mind that you can attain, which
Yeah.
is, I don't
Well,
know,
I can't make
that's
music
great.
the other way. Like I just can't. Like I would have
Right,
quit. Like, and it's the reason why I
right.
started improvising. Is like I was
Yeah,
basically
I bet.
I basically had a breakdown, and I was like, I'm
Uh,
either going to stop playing music because I was a classical saxophonist, right?
well,
And
we
and
should bust into this for a lot. I'd like to really break this out sometime because you've talked about this, and I'd like to. We should just do a whole. You should spill the beans on that
yeah,
because
I'm in.
that's deep.
Um,
And also like thinking about how easy it is for that to. It's a well-intentioned program that you signed up for that had every intention of making you a musician, and it made you almost quit playing music.
right. Well, and I mean, I don't
That's because we're not
necessarily.
all the same, man. We're not all the
Sure,
same people. Like there's different
sure.
paths, you know. So,
Right. Well, and I think that's an important statement to make too, is that we're not all the same people, and like a lot of
yeah,
it might have had to
that
do.
might work for
A
other
lot
people.
of it might have had to do with my own stuff.
Yeah,
Like
right.
like it's not the music program failed me,
Or
so to speak.
the
It's just
stuff
that
or the time too. Like you might be able to go through that program now and get something out of
a
it.
hundred
I don't
percent.
know. I'm sure I could get some different things out of the programs. I tried to get to in college, but
Right. And so
it
that
wasn't
brings
the time
me,
then.
like, looking forward and looking backward. That brings me, well,
Uh-huh.
just to sew up the technique thing before I go on to that
Yeah,
is something that you really that you said that I really liked was like you were asking the question about like how can you get closer to like closer and closer. So like like forever approaching the idea that you
yeah,
have in mind, and but then how can you like I guess you said simplify, but like how can you interpret that through to fit the technique that you have right now so that you can say the
yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Just like, I mean, literally just what we're doing right now. Like you spent
Right.
your day in the sun working really hard today, and you're
Uh,
fried, and you're like you're getting to this conversation. You're meeting me here where I
yeah,
am,
yeah.
and
Uh,
you might be saying it differently because of the experience that you just had. So
right.
like it's fitting literally the linguistic technique that you have right now, or that I have right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's some
really
like conversational music
conversation.
is language stuff right there. I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
um. So, but we're talking about like looking back at school and looking
Uh,
forward. Uh, like what could I do differently now or whatever. And um, uh, you shoot, I gotta find it here. Sorry, I gotta read. Um, well, you were talking about mistakes and what they are. Like, what does that sound like? What does a mistake sound like?
yeah, yeah.
And
What's a mistake sound like?
and so then you quoted some C.S. Lewis, and he was talking about directing the instincts,
Uh,
and you said, and I'll just read it, somewhere in that idea of directing the instincts is what I think I'm trying to say about intention and focusing on the goal of that intention to communicate rather than focus on perfect execution. So I want to get you to expound on that,
yeah.
and then I have a comment to make about it.
Well, I think that's it. Just focusing on another. I always try to think about analogies that help me process it. I don't know if it helps other people understand it, but I always think about like if you're having a conversation and you sit down with somebody and you go, "Hey, how are you doing?" If they reach in their pocket and pull out a document and read from it, it might be really eloquent. It might be perfectly read, and you might be like, wow, that's the most amazing thing ever, but you still don't have any idea how that person feels. Like
Sure.
it didn't do that. It did.
Sure.
It might have done something else, but I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is like focusing, instead of focusing on talking good, is what I'm thinking about. It's like you just work on repeating good sentences instead of trying to think about, like, what do I want to say? What am I trying to say right now?
Like they have like they have a script that says, like, in case of malaise, speak these words.
Right. And I mean, there's also nothing wrong with a scripted performance. It's like a play.
Right.
But it's not a play. That's how I was saying, like, that's how some gigs feel to me. Like, I'll show up at a jazz gig and, like, everybody's looking and scripting that, and I'm looking around because I'm trying to have a conversation and there's a play going on. And of course it's not.
Sure.
I'm just keep saying, like, hey guys, like, what's up? And nobody's answering me. They're all doing their script. They're talking real well, but I can't get any kind of I can't get any conversation going on.
Right.
And I think that's, for me, that's a really important part of it.
Like really well choreographed monologues. Yeah. So that led me to think about sort of the last thing that we were talking about, like how to sort of distill your intention into the technique you have at the moment. And I almost like to think less about like you're saying, like, so if someone had a
script,
a script like that was for this certain purpose, or to read this stuff, like, I like to think not really about musical intentions, really. Like, I don't necessarily have any musical intentions, and I think more about my intentions just as a person and how my music is embodying that. And are my instincts, my musical ones, like, in tuned enough to my intentions? Like I'm thinking of that as, like, really forward, that creates forward motion for me. And or are they, like, more protective, which is, like, really, like, sort of backward and reactionary, So, like, my instincts can be, I mean, I think about that as a person too, just like operating, like, here with my family or whatever. Like, am I more keyed into and operating from that filter of like what my intentions are and who I want to be around here, whether it's on the bandstand or in this house or wherever, and that's a real forward thinking thing, because it's like, it's my ideals for me, right? Or is it more like protective because of some bad experience that I had, where I did something that I perceived as wrong, or somebody else told me was wrong, or somebody else told me I should stop playing music, or whatever.
Any kind of judgment kicked in.
Right. And then it's really sort of like backward and reactionary. I'm almost responding in that way to a moment that has already happened.
Yeah, like a past moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
not the one that I'm in. And so that's something that I really appreciate when we make music together, because it seems like to me that the intention is always first, like, and I don't mean like, intention, like, I mean, yeah, sure, I mean that too, but I mean the forward motion aspect,
right?
Like we're literally, like, deciding to move through, together.
I don't want to get on another tangent, but a lot of that for me is like trust. Like, I can trust you, and I think that you can trust me, that, like, when you have that idea or something, I'm interested in developing that idea,
right?
And I think that that's probably what we can trust about each other. It's like, you're not going to do something, I'm going to be like, oh, you never,
right?
It's just not going to happen. I don't care. You can bring a kazoo and run it
Right.
through the ring mod. I'm gonna be like, oh, that's neat. Let me see what I got that
Right.
complements that.
Exactly. Like we've decided that that's the
Yeah,
case,
it's a
and that's really
decision.
all it
Yeah,
is. It's a decision that we've decided. We have come to the situation, and that's the thing that we have decided. It's like
yeah.
no
And
matter what
I like that.
happens, this is going to be cool. Like no matter what happens, I'm gonna on the other side of this. I'm gonna be really happy that I did this.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah. I think that's important for both of us. It's like that passion equals something other than like stress or anxiety or judgment or pain or what it needs to equal. It can be work. Like I feel like all the stuff that I'm doing with the rig and with what we do is work. Like I'm
Totally.
working hard, but
Yep.
it's very rewarding and I enjoy seeing it coming together and seeing things fail. You know, it's
Yep.
I don't care to have something that didn't work and I spent the afternoon on it. I learned something. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. I like that. But yeah, I like that deciding to be. It's a decision. The idea of a decision. I like that.
Yeah, and I never. That's why I think I never got behind like the whole jazz, like cutting session thing. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that I did either, but I think it just resembles like some jazz gigs resemble close enough what I'm looking for sometimes. You know,
Mhm.
but it doesn't quite fit. But it's like maybe if they loosen up a little bit.
Oh
I'd
yeah, I
get
mean
into
I'm
it.
with it. I love doing it. I'm talking about like
Oh,
the
like
energy
actual
where,
cutting, like
yeah, where people are trying to do that. Like that's
uh
a thing. Like the one-upsmanship or whatever. Like
oh
that.
yeah, I'm not
That's not
into
a
that.
good. That's not a good time to me. Like it's not
No,
like that. I feel like we've decided that that's what we're doing, and in that case, we're not deciding to create something together. We're deciding to figure out who's
one
best.
up.
And
Yeah, I don't like that either. Because I
instead,
always think I forget who said it. It was like uh, it was Bill Bayers. I had a gig with Bill Bayers, and it was me playing bass and Sonny Thornton, and that might have been the first time we played together. But we played like a tune, and Bill was like, "Oh man, you guys got something good because we did. We had some hit like Sonny and I we had some shit going on, and it ain't some shit you can write out. It's just
right?
like we got a thing." And Bill was like, "Yeah, you guys got some shit going on over there. It's greater than the sum of its parts." And
Yep.
I liked that idea. It's like neither one of us are trying to be good or better or show off. We're working together to make this thing,
Yep.
and you almost can't help but like, or that's how I feel about. That's how I want it to feel. It's like you can't help but get involved in it because it's so like it's just so cool to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a foundation for whatever you want to do. That's what I think Sonny and I were really good at. I learned a lot from that guy. All the stuff that we're talking about, like I feel like he's just
Yeah, there's
natural.
plenty of people that just have that for sure. Um,
Yeah. And
catalysts.
not that he's a terrific percussionist either. You know, if you handed him two sticks and a snare, you'd be like, "What's up with that guy?" But you get him in front of the kit and play music with him, and it's just like he's right there with you, man. You know,
Uh,
it's
uh, yeah, I mean, I have
support
my
and
doubts.
encouragement.
Yeah, I have my doubts about Paul Motion the same way.
I
Like
bet. Yeah, I think
you
they would
know,
probably be similar.
but like I don't think you'd ever probably about either of those guys be like, "What's up with that guy?" You probably would still
Right.
hear a hell of a lot of music coming out of the snare drum with the
Yeah.
sticks. It just wouldn't be.
Yeah, that's true.
It wouldn't
It
necessarily
wouldn't
be
seem like
meeting the rubric.
yeah, yeah,
Like it won't be ticking the boxes that you
yeah.
know.
But it's
But
really like it's its own cool thing that is art, man. And I think that's what we're trying.
yeah,
Art.
yeah,
It's not Sonny practicing and getting his technique together. It's him working a day job and retiring and like finding time to give energy to that passion as well,
Mm-hmm.
and playing with all kinds of people for 50 whatever years, and swinging real hard, man,
Yeah.
and loving it.
Yeah. And like you said, like constantly revisiting. That's like
Oh yeah,
that's my spiel that I like am always giving to anybody who will listen, is just like returning.
yeah,
And the act of returning and getting really good at it, like to where to
that's cool, man.
you know what I'm saying, like getting really good, like to the point of like when you pick up your instrument again, it's not just automatic behaviors. It's like when you get home, you're not just like tossing your keys in your spot and just like having a blowout.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's a well-intentioned thing that like every time they pick up the instrument, I mean, when I got my head on right, I'm almost 11 again for a split second.
Yeah.
And I go through the whole progression, it feels like the whole development. And sometimes
That's
I get
great.
hung up, like sometimes I get
That's
hung
great.
up again. And I can work out a kink in a way that's been
Right.
hanging around, like it's like so like returning, like when I was
I've got
practicing,
all kinds of those. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like when I was practicing yoga a lot, the um there was a quote Patabi Joyce said, like practice and all is coming, and I really liked that, but I like to say like it's coming anyway, like like
Oh
everything,
yeah.
here comes everything anyway, so you
Here it
you
comes.
might as well get your practice together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, here it comes is another way to say it, right? It's like it's coming.
Here it comes.
um
Uh-huh.
but yeah, like getting really good at returning and
I
being
like that.
soft about it, like not deciding what it is until you're
Yeah. Not forcing an idea onto it.
or just like the idea could very well just be like you think you know where you're at, like just because you could do something yesterday and you were getting into
Well,
a
yeah.
thing yesterday, when you pick up the horn today or the guitar
It doesn't
today,
mean
it
it's a
doesn't mean
different
that it's
day.
going to happen that way. It's a different day. You have to return to the practice. You have to return to the doing or your process. You can't try to just have the same experience you had before.
See, I'm getting more of that with guitar building because I'm not all that experienced with it, and I'm still kind of back at the beginnings of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll have that, like I'll do it the exact same way, and I don't get the same result. And man, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Like trying to figure out what the hell happened, or not figure it out. Just be like, this is where I am,
Yeah.
and I'm going to enjoy where I am with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out. It's all right. And if I don't figure it out, it's like it's coming anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what I'm trying to say, is trying to keep that energy about it. It's just
Yeah.
like love it no matter what, and
Yeah.
and be in the process of it instead of going ahead and deciding that you need to have the result that either you've just imposed on it or that you had yesterday.
Or was imposed on
Like,
you, or yeah.
It's intention versus expectation, right? It's like,
Yeah, I think so.
and
I like that.
one is just really painful, It's
It
really-
can be, and it will be. I think one of them will
eventually, yeah.
be. Like your expectation won't be met for some reason, and you're going to have a bad time. But your intention can always be something that you're looking at and enjoying. And
Yeah. And if you point yourself
Changing
toward it,
your-
aiming and missing is fine, because you just
Yeah.
you just orient yourself toward it and just do your best.
And even just the idea, again, with like woodworking, like the idea of a failure is like an opportunity, such an obvious opportunity. Like you got to learn something from it.
Yeah.
Because there's, you made the mistake, the thing happened. It's like, what are you going to do? You know? other than burn the whole damn thing. It's like you have an opportunity to learn from it. And I think that being willing to fail, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and to reframe
Or
it
not
as
even think of it
opportunity.
as failure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I am all about that. Like micro failure is what that dude Gary Vee that I like. He always talks about that, like really loving the micro failure.
I know. If I'm in the zone, I don't, I mean, I get pissed if I'm in a hurry and I want something to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm in the zone, those things are just, I'm like, okay, that broke. I'll look at that and whatever. Not. It doesn't keep me. It doesn't keep me from progressing or getting the thing done. It just. It might take longer, but I'm learning. I'm learning more.
Yeah, I think I need
So,
to do something
whatever.
that's like. I think I need to get into something that's a little more expensive to just start the whole thing over. Because
You mean?
that could that could be my thing. Like, if I'm working on something other than music, or maybe it's a recording or something, like
Uh-huh.
making that little error or whatever, and you know instead of being able to just like delete it and start over and do it all again,
Yeah.
like
Permanence.
having something a little more permanent, like the woodworking that causes you to have to work with it.
I heard. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the people talking about it too, but like Jack White, the White Stripes guy, was talking about choosing to work in mediums that have this permanence built into it. Because
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. It's like if I'm recording, I'm like, yeah, I'll get it later.
Oh, didn't he make furniture?
It can have a little more. That guy, I don't know. Maybe
I felt like I read that somewhere.
he might, but yeah, something that's more where like when you make that cut, you're cutting that wood.
Yeah.
It's going to be gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always a fix, but it might be a different thing after that. You might not be able to tell it what it's going to do anymore. But yeah, I don't know that. I think that's really been fun for me to look at because I'm dealing with that a lot. And Brad too, Brad Nickerson. That's why I'm saying his name because nobody knows that they're listening to this.
Right.
But
Yeah.
he was. I think he said he only burned one guitar out of however many hundreds he built, but he had sanded through the side of one using a belt sander and he burned it. But I think that's a pretty good ratio for how many he's made, right? To have only like stepped on and burned one.
Yeah.
Out of however, what's 800, 1,200 or something? I don't know.
That's insane to think about. Like turning out.
Yeah.
Turning out something more permanent like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one that like that I think I struggle with. Like even just recording, like thinking of that as like being a permanent thing, like with KG or something. Like I have to get around that in the studio. King Garbage.
Huh.
Like get
Like,
around that idea.
You have to get around you thinking about it being permanent.
Yeah.
On a recording.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, and I'm not too skilled at that because my best, I think my best technique at getting around it is like, well, I can always go back and do it again.
Right. Right.
And that's not getting anything good out of me either.
Huh. Interesting. I don't know that I'm expecting, like, are you thinking about listening to it later or hearing it later or any of that?
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like I'm more
'Cause
thinking
I'm
about
not.
like it doesn't feel like conversation to play with a recording.
Well, yeah, I don't. That's relatively new that I've been able to work with anything like that because I've done those KG sessions differently than you do, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of outputting ideas and trying not to be too attached to it either, And they figured out like they don't tell me anything. They just press play and start recording, and I just do what I do, and maybe we roll it again, But I think me having that much attachment to it, knowing that they're going to edit the shit out of it anyway,
right.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
But if
Like
I was
with,
thinking like, oh, am I going to hear this late? I don't. I think I would get too attached to what I'm trying to play. But I
yeah.
think you're doing different stuff. If you're
Yeah,
layering
building up parts and and trying to like get it from one section to another, or like do.
I
do
think I can,
things.
and they're also throwing some. Like I think they just threw some earlier, like their way, like there wasn't much going on. Maybe just like 2 or 3 parts, and I was
Sure. Yeah.
So I think they were looking for like just what I would do to it to see if it helped develop it or not. Like maybe they'll just scrap the whole deal, you know. But yeah, I think there's a certain kind of detachment from it because you're not going to get that interaction with another musician. It's just not there.
I definitely get too close to it for sure.
Well, I think it's easy to do. I mean, you want to be in it. You want to be excited about it, and there, if you want to do a good job. So I don't know, it's tough.
Cool. So, there's like, I mean, I think everything we already said today will be probably revisited and expanded.
Yeah.
But
oh, this idea, this at the end, like waiting until that's that like level up. Bad. It's like people want to take lessons and level up and become competent enough to play live. It's like,
oh right,
you got to just do it, man.
So,
and that's what I think. That's what I want this to do is like try to encourage people to just stand do it.
100%.
That's what I want to land. I want this to land at being encouraging.
That's what I'm after too. Is like I said, bringing it back home. Like make this a part of your experience. Just go and do it because, like, if you've decided to be a musician, then you've got it. That's it. Like, and it's done. Like you are. Like that's the entry fee. That's the entry fee, and like if you like you either care enough about it to see it through to where you want it to be, or you don't. And and the situations that that's it. It's easy.
That's
it.
It's easy. It really is.
And it changes, from time to time how much you're seeing that through, or whatever. How much one is seeing that through. And
the idea of working on it might be anything at any given time. It might be lessons with somebody. It might be giving. I learn a lot giving lessons. I learn a lot taking lessons. It could be any opportunity that comes about that you just learn something from, or it pushes you in that direction, or you're just taking a break for a minute.
Right, and you don't need anybody's permission or and the theory or the knowledge or the technique. None of that gives you permission. It just gives you access to like more clearly express yourself. Is it?
Yeah, explain ways to talk about it, other language to abstract it out to. Yeah.
Good talk.
Yeah, man.